And welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here back with another massive episode as we hurtle towards the end of the NBA trade deadline. Now, it's rapidly approaching Friday, the 7th of February here. There's still a lot of moves to be made. A lot of teams are kind of in limbo as to whether they push their chips all in or whether they hold back and play a little more conservatively and see how things fall. It's a fascinating period. You know, I love the on-court action. Like, basketball is my pride and joy. I could watch it all day, every day. But as I've often spoken about, part of the grandeur and allure of the NBA is what happens off the court. And this is certainly one of those exciting little periods within the season. Therefore, on today's show, I'm going to kind of rip through pretty quickly 4 teams that I think need to make moves prior to the deadline. There's a multitude of teams that could make moves, but these 4 in particular, I think, are ones that need to get things done within the next fortnight or so. So I'll rip into that momentarily. Before we do so, though, a big shout out to both Stadium Scene and The Cover, both those networks continuing to showcase my work here, as well as a whole host of other content creators in and around Australia, New Zealand, the US, and Canada. Very, very appreciative for all their continued hard work and support. It really does mean a lot. And likewise to you guys tuning week in and week out, staying up to date with all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Certainly appreciate all the love and support. Really does mean a lot as well. Okay, before we get into the teams I think that need to make moves, I'm going to rip through some very quick odds and ends, starting first and foremost with the news. A bit of a trade went down during the week. And it was the Suns. They received center Nick Richards and 1 second-round pick from the Charlotte Hornets. And in exchange, they gave up 3 second-round picks and Josh Okogie. Now, this move is inevitably the first domino to fall. There's strong reports, and even stronger now with this move, that Jusuf Nurkic is on the way out. But I think getting Richards back, it's a tidy move. He's averaged 11.3 points, a tick over 10 rebounds, 1.7 blocks in 9 starts this season. Shot 65% from the field. He doesn't take a huge amount of attempts, but, you know, he's certainly a pretty adequate starting center. Now, with the way the Suns are constructed, they don't need a guy that's going to occupy a lot of touches or handle the ball. You know, you see teams with Joel Embiid, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, these bigs that handle the rock predominantly. It's not so much the case for Phoenix there with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Tyus Jones there in the point guard position. They just need a guy who's going to clang and bang in the paint, and Richards is certainly going to do that. So I think that's what they've been lacking, a competent big man, the Suns. They've certainly got work to do. I don't think, been quite as damaging as many people thought they would this season. At the time of recording this, they currently sit 10th in the West with a 22-21 record, which I think is certainly well short of expectations. So they'll be hoping that this move can provide a little bit of a spark for them. In other news, the Dallas Mavericks have made center Daniel Gafford available in trade talks. Now, this coming per The Athletic, 26 years old, Gafford's certainly been a pretty respectable contributor there for the Mavs. He's averaged nearly 12 points a game, 6 rebounds, a block and a half, and gone at 70.5% from the field this season. I think many teams would find him a very, very handy acquisition. I don't know if they might tailor this a little bit, whether they put him on the trade block, just due to the fact that it's come out just a couple of days prior to this episode that Derek Lively sustained a small fracture in his foot. He's expected to miss 2 to 3 months. Now, I think the announcement of Gafford came prior to Lively going down, so I reckon they'll probably maybe just readjust their plans a little bit there about moving Gafford on. But Lively going down 2 to 3 months, this is a big, big blow for them. He started to develop into one of those kind of cornerstone pieces there in Dallas. Averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 1.7 blocks per game this season. This is a big blow for the Mavs. Now, they sit at 23-21 in the Western Conference, 9th at the moment. They're by no means safe to just get into the play-in at the moment. And with Lucas still on the sidelines, Clay missing a bit of time, yeah, lively as well. I tell you what, stranger things have happened. At the moment, you'd have to think there's probably it's only 12 deep that the West is really kind of pushing for. Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs there in those 11th and 12th spots at the moment. But it's certainly tight. So the Mavs are going to have their work cut out for them over the second half of the season. They'll certainly be hoping to get into the playoffs, and then hopefully Lively can come back and be at full fitness once again. In other news, the Lakers have tried to boost their big man stocks by adding former Pelicans player Trey Jimison on a two-way contract. Now, the idea behind him, he'll bring a bit of physicality to the squad. Averaged 5 points, 4.3 rebounds across 41 NBA games there with the Pelicans. It's certainly not a huge needle mover, but the Lakers were certainly lacking physicality, and Jemison will certainly bring that. I know reports coming out in the last day or two that AD and LeBron aren't thrilled about the moves that have been made. They think they should kind of go all in, offload these number one picks that they still have, or these first round picks, should I say, and kind of go balls to the wall and make something of it. As LeBron's clock is certainly winding down, but they're not that pleased at the way things are going thus far. So Jemison maybe is a catalyst as well, somewhat like we spoke about with the Suns. Might be a catalyst for more moves. Do they look to move on from Rui, Max Christie, these draft assets? Is potentially Austin Reeves on the chopping block? I don't know. It would be a very big move, but we'll watch eagerly over the next fortnight or so. And then finally, for the Timberwolves, guard Dante DiVincenzo, he's out indefinitely with a left big toe injury. Now, at the moment, he's currently in a boot. As I said, out indefinitely, no clear time frame for return. But a big blow for the Wolves there. He was averaging 17.5 points, a tick under 5 assists, and going up 42% from 3 across his last 6 games. Now, the fact about those 6 games, he came into the starting lineup, and my goodness, didn't he look better? I think since that move from New York over to Minnesota, playing off the bench, he's looked, I don't know, certainly not at his best this season. But since coming into that starting lineup, has looked considerably better. So the Wolves, again, another team that's kind of by no means safe. 8th at the moment in the West at 23 and 21, like the Dallas Mavericks. It's not clear cut by any stretch of the imagination. So they'll certainly be hoping DiVincenzo can get back on the court as quickly as possible. Guys, there you have a very quick round of odds and ends. Let's move ahead.
Daily Dribble.
Bloody hell, that was loud. I wonder if that was as loud for you guys as it was for me. It's coming through the headphones there, and I tell you what, there's not a lot of hearing left. Nevertheless, moves that need to be made. As I said, I've got 4 teams here that I think need to make moves prior to that February 7th deadline. I'm not going to give specific moves as such, but just a quick idea of teams that I think could be active prior to the deadline. Okay. I wonder where you guys sit as well on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I reckon, as I said, I've given 4, but there's probably 10 to 15 teams that could legitimately make moves in the next fortnight. So I would love to hear from you what I got right, what I got wrong, and what you would have changed. First and foremost, I reckon this comes as a surprise to absolutely no one, and that's the Miami Heat. Now, despite Jimmy taking to the court after his suspension the other day, this move is inevitably going to come. He's averaging 17.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists this season. So still putting up productive numbers, but certainly isn't that franchise-level star now. It's time for the Heat to move on. It's time for them to look ahead to life after Jimmy Butler. Their team now is built around Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo. They've got some decent young players coming into the fold as well. But Jimmy's not that guy. There are multiple teams that are no doubt keeping tabs on Jimmy. Most recently, though, the Bucks have kind of thrown their hat into the ringer and been rumoured. It's kind of focused on a package around Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, and a little bit of draft capital there. That would be a super fascinating move and one that I didn't foresee coming. Would you like to see this? Jimmy out in Milwaukee, running amok there with Giannis, with Dame, would it work? I don't know. I don't hate it. I think if you're swapping him for Middleton, Connaughton, a little bit of draft capital, I reckon you take that. I reckon you take that if you're the Bucks. That big three of Butler, Lillard, and Giannis, that's pretty potent. Watch this space. Number 2, I had the Utah Jazz. Now, clearly the Jazz aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Pelicans have actually jumped them over the course of the last couple of days. The Pelicans are riding a 4-game win streak. Fair play to them. The Jazz have dropped down to 15th in the West with a 10-32 record. Their season's over. They're in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Full rebuild mode, no problems whatsoever. Given that fact, though, they should look to offload some of these more experienced players they've got at their disposal while their value's still, respectable. Speaking about Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, there's absolutely going to be a market for all 4 of them, you would think. To be honest, like their values, none of them, you wouldn't think, none of their values going to go any higher. So I think they need to offload now. Like, what was it? Probably 6 to 12 months ago would have been ideal to offload Markkanen. But I think now you've got to do it before that. The value for all 4 of them starts to take a downswing. I think they have to make a move, and they've got to make it quickly. As I said, there's players there that would certainly contribute to a playoff or title aspiring team. Markkanen in particular, I think Clarkson coming off the bench, he's a spark plug that any team would love to have. Likewise, Sexton. Collins has had a huge career resurgence this year. Utah need to make something happen, so they are my second team. My third team is the Golden State Warriors. Now, are they going for it with Steph and Draymond still there? Are they looking toward the future? It's really a battle they've fought with for the last couple of years now. I think you've got to go for it. If you're the front office, when you've got a career, like a superstar to the caliber of Steph Curry, you've got to put your chips all in. It's like the Lakers. Get rid of anything that's not nailed down and go all in to maximize these stars while you've got them. I think all signs are indicating towards them needing a quality big man there in the Bay Area. And the name being rumoured quite heavily is Nikola Vucevic. Now, as I said, the name being floated around most, you would say. I think this would be a phenomenal get there. With his ability to hit the 3 ball and the way he's playing this season, you'd have to think making a great push for the All-Star game. He would be a perfect addition there in San Francisco. Him linking up with Steph, with Wiggins, with Kuminga, with Draymond, with Buddy. There is plenty of shooting there. But at the moment, they're a little bit off the pace. They've got a lot of work to do if they want to even just make the playoffs or play in for that matter. Today, as I record this, they went down by 6 points to the Kings. They're 21-22 on the season. It's just not going to cut it. And they now find themselves in a dicey position. As I said, I think you've got to go for it. Offload these younger players, offload some draft assets, make some moves, and really give Steph one big hurrah, winning another title. It's got to be done, I think. And finally, I had the Portland Trail Blazers staying out west. Now, the Blazers, they want to move towards the future. They're a team, again, that's not going anywhere fast. It doesn't feel to me like their young players are quite good enough to take the reins just yet. But I think you've got to give them the keys and see what happens. Players like Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, Rob Williams, offload them all. Restart from the ground up. Give Scoot, Kamara, Klingon. Like, these guys need the keys and just have the ability to run with it. I think they're not going to go any worse than what they are now. And even if they do, it's not to their detriment. May as well cash in somewhat, as I spoke about there before, with the, with the Jazz. You've got to cash in while you've still got value in some of these players. And I don't know what the market would be like for an Ayton. I think Grant would be a valuable get. Simons has had a pretty disappointing season, I would say. but I think there's still enough value in these players to make it worthwhile. So if I was in the front office in Portland, I would give them all up because at the moment, as I said, like they're 13th, they're 15 and 28 in the season. Like really, what is the need to have these guys? Give the keys to the young players and let's see what happens. Guys, there you have it. As I said, it was going to be a very quick rip through of 4 teams that I think need to make moves. I had the Miami Heat, the Utah Jazz, the Golden State Warriors, and the Portland Trail Blazers as teams that I think need to make moves prior to the deadline on February 7th. Let me know what I got right there, what I got wrong. I would love to hear your thoughts on the moves that you think need to be made. Nevertheless, let's push on finally to my MVP of the week.
Daily Dribble.
And this week, I've gone with the coach. My MVP of the week is the Oklahoma City head coach, Mark Daigneault. He was named this week as a first-time head coach for the All-Star game. He's going to be one of 4 coaches with this new round-robin format this season. And he absolutely deserves it. He has been incredible this season. He's helped guide the OKC Thunder to first in the Western Conference at 36-7. Got a very considerable lead out there in the West at the moment. They currently sit 7 games ahead of Houston there in second, which just speaks to their dominance. He's going to become the first head coach for OKC in the All-Star game since the 2013-2014 season there with Scott Brooks. And as I said, 36-7, no guy deserves this more. The opportunity to coach in the All-Star game than Daigneault there. They're absolutely a team as well that could make moves if they wanted to. I was about to mention them. No team within the league has a greater war chest than the OKC Thunder. Could they look to kind of consolidate a little bit, to push on with what they've got at their disposal, or could they kind of combine some of these assets and make a push for another star? I don't think they will. I think they're pretty content with how things are going at the moment, but it's certainly something that could happen. Nevertheless, though, Mark Daigneault certainly deserves to be my MVP of the week. The All-Star game is rapidly approaching as well there, so certainly looking forward to that. Nevertheless, there recaps a big episode from the Daily Dribble podcast. Really appreciate you all continuing to tune in. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff wherever you're listening to the show, whether that's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or watching this one on YouTube. I will leave it at that for this week, guys. Have a tremendous week. Enjoy another massive week from the NBA and the NBL. We rapidly approach the playoffs there too. And I will speak to you all again next week. Till then, though, remember, be good at it. See you guys.